Alright guys, we just got back from a 10-day road trip. We were out in Colorado for Barb and my dad's elk hunt. And we're just coming back here to see what our solar power is doing, how it did when we were gone. This is a Victron Smart System. So we were at around 80% when we were gone. Michigan has been in pretty much cloud cover since we've been gone. As we can see here, we're still at 81% on our battery usage while we were gone. What we did is when we left, we turned the inverter off because our freezer, which is a 15 cubic foot freezer, chest freezer by Sunstar, 12 volt, we're running that on. And our refrigerator has the size of 10 cubic foot unique refrigerator that was all those also runs on 12 volt. And both of those we left running while we were gone to obviously protect the food that we have. But being on 12 volt, we were able to shut the inverter off. The inverter itself draws 14 watts constantly when it's on. So we did a little figuring the time we were gone that saved us approximately 3.3 kilowatts of usage while we were gone. I said Michigan didn't have much sun while we were gone, so it's interesting. This is a reason we went this way, that we were able to keep this stuff running and be able to leave for periods of time and not have to really worry about it. So we'll look at our history here a little bit. What did we make while we were gone? 10 days ago, we made 1.65 kilowatts, and then we could see there's one day it was only 350 watts, 840, 770, 620, 730. Yes, 4 days ago we made 1.29, 310, 270, and today we made 1 kilowatt. But as we look back here on where our battery status is, it's exactly where we left it. It's still at 81% of battery life, so pretty happy with that. Didn't gain a whole lot, didn't lose a whole lot, but we were able to leave pretty much worry-free that the chest freezer, the refrigerator, all that stuff would still be good while we were gone. So we'll do a little bit more review here on what each of these takes, the power that it takes, what we paid for them, and how they work for us. All right, guys, we wanted to show you how we have things running to the house here. Sorry for the lighting here. We're kind of in a dark day, back in a dark corner. But what we have here is the two different systems here. Try not to shadow it too much. This is where the DC comes in. So this is run with a positive and negative off from the batteries. And this is a fuse block. And these are just little blade fuses like you would have probably in your car. And this just has a fuse to the different systems we have. For example, the blue one up there, that's a fuse for our refrigerator. That's running to our DC refrigerator inside the house. The red one there, that's just a small circuit run to DC outlets on either side of the bed, so you can charge a phone or run a little fan at night. And then the other ones are there to our different light banks that we operate. Probably a little overkill for the lights, but each one of those has its own fused circuit, and that's able to run straight off the batteries without having to have the inverter on. Over on this side here, we have a regular AC system. We've got 3 breakers here, all 20 amp, run with 12 gauge Romex. And each of these are to different areas of the house for the AC outlets. And then this one here is on its own GFI breaker. That's the one that we run for the well. And so those are all controlled right there. And over here we have our smart monitor here for our Victron. Shows that we are pretty much at full charge, but we really don't use this. This actually broadcasts the information straight to our phones. So we're able to check that right on the app on our phones, what percentage we're at. And then this here is the remote control for the inverter. We don't need to use this dial here. What that does, it just adjusts that it controls how much power you're coming in. So if you're in like an RV type of system and you're plugging into a power source, and say it was only had a 10 amp fuse on it, then, or a breaker on it, then you can dial that down so you're not drawing too much that you'll be throwing that breaker. But since it's coming off from our system, we don't really have to mess with that. The main thing I like about this is we go to bed at night or during certain times of the day, say, well, we don't need that inverter on right now. We're not running anything, so let's just conserve some power. So just a simple little switch to off right there, the inverter's off. So the only thing we're running the house on is the DC power. We need to charge up the well or plug something in. All we have to do is just flick it AC power, inverter's back running, AC power's on, and we're good to go. We just wanted to do a little review, a little deeper dive here on how we have the solar set up. We have our solar coming in here, and we have 2,000 watts of solar power, and that comes in down through here to an on-off switch. Good idea to have an on-off switch, so if you need to work on it, you can shut that off. From there, goes into our charge controller to the PV side, positive, negative, pretty simple. It does all that stuff in here, how it manages and charges the batteries. From there, you got the battery side, positive, negative. That runs through and comes out here to our battery bank. We have 400 amp hour lithium ion batteries, so that's a potential of 4,800 watts of power that we have here. And then from there, we have the positive coming out to a battery shutoff, another good idea to have. And then it goes from the shutoff, I have it going up to a large fuse, and then the power goes on up into the inverter. From the negative side, this is a smart shunt of the Victron system. The main negative goes into one side. Everything that's pulling power, the negatives go off from the other side, and that monitors everything that you use, both AC and DC. It tells you when something's on, how much power it's drawing, and from there it goes up into the inverter also. This is the line that goes to the remote shutoff for the inverter, and this is a line here that feeds to that little round display that broadcasts to our phones how much battery life we have left, how much we're using, how much solar we have coming in. This here is the inverter itself. It's a 2,000 watt inverter, but it's also a charger. It's an inverter charger. Something I would definitely suggest to people who live in cloud prone area where you don't always have solar sufficient every day, that you do need to supplement with a generator, which is just a hard reality of when you live in when you live in a area that can be overcast for quite a bit of time. You're going to run out of power. So instead of having to have a battery charger hooking up to a generator to charge up your batteries or run your system, this here, we have it hardwired with this cord here that plugs right into our generator. So as soon as I turn our generator on, the transfer switch goes on in here, and it's both running any AC we need in the house and it's charging the batteries at the same time. So a really nice way to do it. And that's kind of a breakdown of the system, how we have it set up here. Nothing real complicated, just a simple system, but like I said, 2.5 years we've been running it full time and no complaints so far. All right, guys, this is the generator that we have on our system. It's a Furman 3,000 watt dual fuel. I like that option. I like running off of propane. We hook it up to a 20-pound propane, and that'll last us about 14 hours of run time. We obviously don't run it that much, but this is a cord here we haven't coming out of the shed. So that's plugged in right here. We just leave the system set up here. Long periods of no sunshine, it's really easy. It's a nice electric start. We start that up, transfer switch goes on, and we're charging the batteries and running our house at the same time. So when we do need it, we have that set up right here, ready to go. All right, everybody, so what we want to do here is a breakdown of the numbers, real numbers that we were able to monitor while we took a trip recently. We went out to Colorado for 10 days. We were gone for 10 days, and we were out there for Barb and my dad's elk hunt. She did get an elk.
She did.
And we brought back, what, about
200 pounds of meat.
200 pounds of meat, so we're really looking forward to that. But it was kind of an opportunity to show why we did what we did. And when you're thinking of going off-grid, solar, especially if you're small, if you're doing a small system, I mean, some houses have big systems that they're grid tied also, and they kind of run it the whole way. But when you're looking at the off-grid life, looking at potential tiny house, you're not looking at such a huge system. You really start to count the watts. And we just want to do a numbers breakdown, because with the system we have, we're able to monitor exactly what we made and what we used while we were gone. And being able to have the freedom to leave and be able to leave stuff in the refrigerator and
without
freezer
worrying about it.
Without worrying about it. Having all your produce, different produce, stuff you haven't canned, the wild game that we harvest, the chickens that you harvested.
Yes.
You know, keep those all in a frozen environment and be able to leave for a period of time and not have to worry about it is kind of why we did what we did.
We had very poor solar while we were gone.
Yeah,
It's been raining here for weeks.
We'll do a quick breakdown. We're able to look back on our phones and see exactly what we made for solar per day. Quick breakdown example, 350, 840, 770, 620, 730, 1290, 310, 270, 870, and 1000. So you add all those up, we made 7,050 watts of solar while we were gone. And the thing with our system, we're able to see that when we left, I checked it, our battery percentage was at 81%. And when we came back, our battery percentage was still at 81%, and everything was still fresh and frozen. So going on that, I'm saying we used 7,050 watts while we were gone, since the battery percentage was exactly the same when we came back as when we left. And what originally, and we have in our system is we run some things on AC, but a lot of things we run on DC. And that's why we're going to take a little look at the different appliances that you can get. I know solar, they call them solar appliances or DC powered appliances, are more expensive than regular appliances, but we'll do a numbers breakdown of what we paid for ours when we, at the end of this talk here. But what originally got me thinking about this, I did a lot of video research when we were first thinking of doing this and having some solar power. One website I would recommend to anybody that's looking at learning about this is Will Prowse, his DIY Solar on YouTube. He really simplifies a lot of things, does a lot of breakdown, does a lot of reviews, and makes it pretty easy to understand.
He makes it so I understand it. He does a good job of explaining it.
But I was watching a video he was doing on a review of a plug-and-play system, and it was just a small system, and it was actually the one we had started with was only a 1,000-watt inverter. So we didn't know if we were going to be doing this full time. We just wanted to start experimenting and getting going with that. But one thing he mentioned that really struck me was the idle consumption of an inverter. Even if you're not plugging anything in and using it, that inverter, when it converts DC to AC, has a power consumption.
It's on all the time.
And that's one thing you mentioned. This particular unit has a high idle consumption, and if you're thinking of running things on AC power, this is probably something you're not going to want to run all the time. It'd be good for a small cabin, and that's what we use it for first, just to be able to have the convenience of using some things. But he said it's probably not something you want to leave on all the time. He said, I don't remember what other brand he mentioned, but he mentioned that if you want something with a lower idle consumption, go with Victron, or there was another brand he mentioned. I don't remember what it was. But that's kind of what got me on the Victron track. And the idea of not having everything running on AC. And I remember watching another gentleman, it was so long ago, I don't remember who it was, but he had a video of his tiny house and how he ran a lot of things on DC power. So that just got my wheels going, thinking you don't need everything on AC. So in this cabin, the way we set it up, and we'll show you that we're going to show that video of how our system works, both the whole solar setup and the way we have it set up in the house. But all of our lights, our refrigerator, and our freezer are on DC power. And we turn the inverter on when we need to plug something in, some of Barb's kitchen appliances, or when she wants to use some of her hair appliances. We do have the inverter on, and also the well. The well actually does run off of our AC power also. We don't need that on all the time because it's on a pressure tank. So we have plenty of water for quite a while without having it on. But have you had any issues with that? I think the biggest thing, had we known that we were going to put our well on the system itself, we would have got a bigger system. Ours is a 2,000-watt inverter. And the well draws, when it turns on, it's a 110 half horsepower, I believe, well, which we have plenty of water pressure. But we have to make sure nothing else is running at that time. We don't want to overload it, because when it turns on, it goes up to 1,800 watts. So
no running water when we're using an outlet for something.
But we don't have to worry about is the refrigerator running, is the freezer running, because those aren't run through that. So it doesn't put that draw in there. It draws off the batteries, but it doesn't put the draw through the inverter, so we don't overtax the inverter when the well does kick on. So that's probably one of the biggest things we would have done different. We had no idea we were going to run the well pump
No.
on the solar inverter.
No.
No idea. So had we known that, we would have gone with a bigger inverter.
Yep.
But we make it work the way it is. It's a nice system. We've been running it full time now for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Had it for 3 years and full time off grid now for almost 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Any complaints?
No.
All right. So let's just do a further number breakdown. We were at, sorry for looking down here. I got all this notes scribbled down here. But like I said, we were gone for 10 days and our batteries were at the same percent of charge when we came home as when we left. And we made 7,050 watts. So we break that down, divided by 10 days, that's 705 watts per day of power that we used. It's hard to monitor exactly what the refrigerator and freezer take while we're gone, while they're running. They don't run 24/7. I know we've checked what the watts draw when they do run. I haven't taken the time to sit here in the quiet for 24 hours just to see
how many times it turns on.
How many times it turns on, how long does it run. But I think this is a pretty good example of how much watts were used up while we were gone. And so you break that down, 7,050 watts that we made, divided by 10 days equals 705 watts a day. So we were using it equal to 30 watts per hour. We know that the fridge itself, when it turns on, draws 54 watts. We know that the freezer, when it turns on, draws 90 watts. So that's an average over the day's use. Now we went and looked at some comparable sizes. We have a 10 cubic foot refrigerator, freezer in the house. And out back we have a 15 cubic foot freezer. The refrigerator is Unique brand and the freezer is Sunstar. We looked at similar size appliances that are AC powered, and we took the energy guide.
Yes, the little yellow sticker.
And some are a little bit more, some are a little bit less, but for roundabout purposes, the energy guide says for these appliances they use an average of 330 kilowatts per year. So that's 330,000 watts per year that they use. So you break that down per year, that's 365 days. Each one uses 904 watts per day. That's an average use. You times that times two appliances, and that totals an equal of using 1,808 watts per day, or 75 watts per hour. So if we had been using that system there while we were gone, we would have been using 2.5 times the amount of power. And that's just the appliances. Now the Victron that we have has a lower rated idle consumption than some other brands. But we did look online. It said the average idle consumption of inverters of a 2,000 watt inverter would be anywhere from 15 to 50 watts per hour. So, but even with ours, had we had that inverter running while we were gone, that would have been using 360 watts a day. That would have been 3,600 watts of power that we used while we were gone for 10 days, which is 3.6 kilowatts. So what does that mean to us? We break that down. Like I said, our battery bank was at 81% when we left and was at 81% when we came back. So very happy with that. But you add that up, we had 81% of 4,800 watts. So that's 3,888 watts we had in our battery bank. And we made 7,000 watts while we were gone. That's a total potential. And that was over 10 days. So we would have had the 10 days to make that extra 7. But still, going with that, we had 11,000 watts. That one would have been a use of 2,160 watts per day, which in my calculations said the system would have been dead in 5 days.
Had we had AC appliances.
If we had AC appliances and had
running that inverter
while we're gone, instead of everything frozen when we came home, that would have been 5 days of, for sure, maybe longer without power, which would have meant we would have come back to kind of a disaster.
Yes.
A bunch of spoiled food. But this isn't to dissuade you to go one way or the other. One way's great or one way's bad. The idea here is just to give you some information to empower you when you're thinking of doing your own system. These are just some things to consider. I know solar appliances do, we'll call them solar appliances, DC appliances do cost more than other appliances, but we bought our stuff 3 years ago.
Yes, and prices obviously have gone up since we
Yeah.
bought it. But
You got the refrigerator from,
we ordered it online through Costco.
and you look, but you can't.
They don't have it anymore.
But at that time, how much did you pay for that refrigerator?
$1,000.
Okay.
$9.99.
And then the freezer's a 15 cubic foot chest freezer.
Yep, we bought that through the Cabin Depot, and it's still the same price today, $14.75. And I'm gonna put links to all of these.
Okay.
In the description.
What have you found for buying a refrigerator like we have now?
There's several different options that you have for DC appliances. The best prices that I found, and I'm going to put links to these in the description also, is through a website called Appliances Connection. Now, we've never bought anything from them, but they do have a large selection of the unique brand DC refrigerators and freezers. You can get everything from a 7 cubic foot refrigerator to the 8.7 to the 12 cubic foot refrigerator, and they vary from $8.99 to $14.99, just depending on what type of refrigerator you want. Unique has the it is a unique type of brand, also the name, but they specialize in retro looking type of refrigerators, and those are obviously a little bit more expensive if you want the retro look, but they do have a large variety of different types and styles of the refrigerators. So also on Amazon, they have a 10 cubic foot refrigerator. It's called the Rec Pro. That one's $13.74. Place like Ben's Discount, they do scratch and dent. It's a little hit or miss as to what you find on Ben's Discount at different times, but they can have some good prices. And I know you can go pick up your item from them and then not have to deal with the shipping. And I don't remember where they're at, but I will.
But for instance, the Cabin Depot, that's where you got your freezer from.
Correct. And they came out at the price list.
You can order there too the same refrigerator that we have, the unique 10 point some cubic square feet.
And
how much is that?
They came out at the most expensive at $18.99.
So it's almost double what we spent for it.
Correct.
And it would be a lot more money than what you would spend for that size of refrigerator if you just bought the big box AC appliance.
Home Depot has the unique 10 cubic foot for $17.99. The same refrigerator that we have. $17.99. So it's $800. You can order it through Home Depot. Yeah, it's a special order. They don't have
$800 more than we paid for ours, but still, you can buy an AC refrigerator this size just off the floor there at Home Depot for a whole lot cheaper.
Oh yeah.
And do you wish you would have gone that way?
I don't know, because I want the assurance that everything's going to be running when I come home.
You put a lot of love and care and time into storing your freeze goods and whatnot.
Yes,
so
I do.
Another thing to mention, the freezer that we bought, that can also be used as a refrigerator.
Yes, I believe all DC freezers can be used as refrigerators.
Not the most convenient to have a chest refrigerator.
But it does work, and you can't have obviously it's just a big open freezer. You can't have one side freezing and one side refrigerator. It's just one or the other.
Right.
But you can use them as a refrigerator as well.
But
it depends on what temperature you want to set
so yeah, in my mind, we just figure here we have for what we paid 3 years ago. We basically paid $100 a cubic foot for each one. 10 cubic refrigerator for $1,000 and 15 cubic foot freezer for 14 something. So that's just a breakdown we wanted to do. We just wanted to explain why we went with a dual system of DC current and AC current use in the cabin. And when you're counting the watts, every watt counts. For example, all this prompted me to finally finish the DC outlets we have by our bed, which I did a breakdown on. I like to run a fan at night, and the little tabletop fan I had running on AC drew 22 watts an hour.
Plus the
inverter on. And I bought a little USB fan that I can plug in, which is plenty for what I need, just like that little breeze at night. And that one was running between 2 and 3 watts. So when we woke up this morning, our system was not much further discharged than what it was when we went to bed. So it's just advantages you can do, just things to think of. We just want to put this information out there so you can make an informed decision, decide how you want to do things. But thanks for watching.